Well, good morning again to everyone, and welcome to our banquet. We appreciate everyone joining us this morning. To get us started, we have a great relationship with the North American, and as you all recognize, it's a special year being the 50th anniversary of this great show, and we're fortunate enough to have Mrs. Corinne Fetter with us. Corinne is Executive Director of Expositions here at the North American. And like Corinne to provide us a welcome and a few comments, please. Corinne?
Thank you, Dr. Greiner. Get this. Good morning. As you know, this is a very special year for the North American International Livestock Exposition, the 50th anniversary of the show. We are especially conscious of the idea of legacy in this anniversary year. And the legacy of the judging contest is intertwined with the legacies of two important expositions and two important places in agricultural history. The International Livestock Exposition, held at Chicago Union Stockyards from 1900 until 1975, and the North American, held these past 50 years here at the Kentucky Exposition Center. The National Collegiate Livestock Judging Contest has been an important feature of both of these storied livestock shows. Another legacy that serves as a thread connecting the International and the North American is the Saddle and Sirloin Portrait Gallery, the world's largest portrait gallery honoring a single industry, the great men and women of the livestock industry. These portraits, the 378th portrait was added to the collection at an induction ceremony Sunday night, and they're housed here at the Exposition Center. Gerald Callahan, the 2023 honoree, was third high individual overall in 1975, representing Oklahoma State, and he would go on to coach two consecutive national champion teams, two second-place teams, and two high individuals for his alma mater. He mentored more than 300 livestock judging team students over the years. So many livestock leaders selected for the Saddle and Sirloin Gallery showed early promise as students participating in this judging contest, including 1992 inductee Jack Ragsdale, who held the record for the highest individual score from 1948 until 1961, when another Purdue student broke that record, Nick Overpeck. And it should be noted that that record still stands today. Jack Ragsdale would go on to help found the North American International Livestock Exposition and serve as chair of the show's executive committee for 30 years. It was an honor and a privilege to work with Jack Ragsdale, and I can tell you that he exemplified all the hallmarks of leadership. He demonstrated respect for all, he always had his sights set on the big picture, and he held service to others above self. We knew that when we were in a boardroom that he had our backs, and we knew that he was the smartest man in the room. But he was humble and did not pursue selfish interest. Mr. Ragsdale's portrait hangs not far from the portrait of Minnie Lou Ottinger Bradley, who became the first woman to be named high individual in 1951. Success in the National Collegiate Livestock Judging Contest is an early achievement for many individuals who have gone on to lead exemplary careers in this industry, and Ms. Bradley would become the first woman president of the American Angus Association. As I'm sure you are aware, knowledge in this industry is passed from one generation to the next, and success is greatly shaped by the influential mentors in our lives. Saddle and Sirloin honorees devoted many years of their lives to coaching livestock judging teams. Phineas Shear, Warren Blizzard, J.C. Holbert, Dr. Robert Tadashak, and Dr. Roger Hunsley, seated on my left, all coached multiple winning teams. The founder of the judging contest, Professor John Craig, and 4 contest superintendents, Professor J.H. Shepard, Dr. Harlan Ritchie, Dr. Gary Manish and Dr. Dave Hawkins have all been honored with saddle and sirloin portraits as well. For these men and women, a saddle and sirloin portrait is one of the great honors of their lives, and many are dedicated to preserving the legacy of the collection. I serve on the Saddle and Sirloin Portrait Foundation Board of Directors, along with several portrait honorees, including Harold Workman, founder and longtime general manager of the North American, Dr. Manish, Dr. Hawkins, Dr. Hunsley, and Dr. Maynard Hogberg. We have copies of the Foundation's latest newsletter to share, where you can read about the efforts of our charitable foundation to promote the collection and raise funds for its ongoing maintenance and conservation. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge my coach from 1989, Dr. Scott Shockey. Thanks for all you did for our team and for me, Dr. Shockey. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention Mr. Bob Hall, who's an inductee of the Saddle and Sirloin inductee, and chair, he was the original chair of the Sheep Advisory Committee, a mentor and a friend of mine from college until now, along with his children, Lee and Julia Hall. Julia also serves on the foundation board. The portraits of many of the Saddle and Sirloin inductees from recent years hang on this second floor of the mezzanine of South Wing C, and I encourage you to walk the halls and think about legacy. The legacy of breed founders and executives, livestock show managers and judges, educators and researchers, meat packers and auctioneers, veterinarians and policymakers. There's one thing that all Saddle and Sirloin honorees have learned from their years of leadership: relationships. Relationships are key to success in the livestock industry and in life. Always keep that in mind. Your participation in this 118th Collegiate Judging Contest, the 48th at the North American, may be a part of your legacy. Follow the stories of the legacy builders in the portrait collection. They will show you the many paths to success. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne, and we very much appreciate all that the North American does to make this a great event possible, and appreciate your support and welcome you back in a leadership role, and look forward to working with you in the future. In addition to the North American, we have a tremendous number of great supporters and sponsors, of which we're fortunate enough to have some of those join us this morning. I'd like to take just a minute or two and introduce to you the folks that have joined us at the head table. To my right, we have Mr. Joel Cowley. Joel, of course, is one of our operations folks in the contest and does an awful lot to make it happen. Joel's the CEO at the Calgary Stampede, and great to have Joel with us. You met Corinne. Next to Corinne is Dr. Dan Eversole, one of my colleagues at Virginia Tech, faculty member there and teaches in our livestock production sector. Dan is a former superintendent of this contest, and appreciate Dan joining us. Seated next to Dan's Mr. Ernie Barnes. Ernie this morning, while he's retired, we brought him out of retirement to represent the National Pork Board, but a great enthusiast, longtime supporter and of our contest, and great to have Ernie back and lend us a hand as well. Seated next to him is Todd C. You met Todd. He's our swine superintendent, department head at North Carolina State University, also very involved in swine research and representing the National Swine Improvement Federation this morning. Seated next to Todd's Mr. Ty Agnell. Ty's with United Animal Health, one of our sponsors. Next to Ty is Jackson Toll with United Producers here in Kentucky and in this region, another one of our award sponsors. Moving down, we have Miss Deborah Hopkins. She's Executive Secretary of the Continental Dorset Club. Seated next to Deb is Brenda Rao. Brenda is representing the National Sheep Improvement Program. Seated next to Brenda is Mr. Jeff Ebert with the American Hampshire Sheep Association, and to my far right, representing the American Sheep Industry Association, is Ann Kreider. We appreciate all those folks join us. To my left, you met Dr. Hunsley. Skip a chair or two, Mr. Jeff Langemeyer with URUS, and appreciate Jeff being here. Seated next to Jeff is Garrett Stanfield. Garrett's with Transova Genetics. Seated next to him is Mr. Bert Moore. Bert, of course, a longtime coach and educator at North Dakota State University and representing the American Scimitar Association this morning. Seated next to Dr. Moore is Jeff Bedwell with the American Hereford Association. You all are very familiar with Jeff and his involvement in this activity, being a former coach, and of course his support in that role at the Hereford Association is very much appreciated. Next to him is Mr. Michael Hampton. Michael's with Central Life Sciences. They were sponsor of our coaches' dinner on Sunday night and also a supporter of awards this morning. Seated next to Mr. Hampton is Caroline Davis. Caroline's a national sales rep with Sullivan Supply. And at the far end of the table is Mr. Lee Hall. Lee is with the Hall family. His father, Bob Hall, you heard Corinne mention, and we appreciate the Hall's support and all they do on behalf of this activity to support students. A couple that are in the crowd, Keaton Dodd is here with the 10-year Texas A&M team. He's not at the head table. He's sitting out front with B.R. Cottrell. They're an award sponsor. And I'd like to call to your attention in your program our breakfast sponsors this morning, the National Block and Bridle Club, Select Sires Incorporated, Nichols Cryogenetics, and Smithfield Foods. If you'd help me in saying thank you to these folks that have joined us, as well as all of our sponsors, we appreciate that. You met several of them last night at the critique. It takes an army, and I'm very fortunate to have a great group of folks that make this event happen, that take care of the details behind the scenes, picking out classes, being officials, etc. A handful of them are seated at the table over here. I'm going to ask them to stand, and I want to recognize them and thank them publicly for all they do. Steve Spivey is our Director of Operations. You all know Steve well and helps us run a tight ship. Stephanie Gertz coordinates our reasons. Becky's willing. Appreciate Becky being here. My wife, Lori, and a couple others that have joined us. Your referee judge, Mr. Glenn Martin, and I see Barrett Carlisle's over there as well, one of your officials. If you guys would stand, please, and so we can say thank you for all that you do to make this event happen. I think one group that we perhaps don't say thank you to enough is the administrators back at our home institutions that recognize the importance of judging teams, the livestock judging team, and student extracurricular activities that have given us all so many opportunities. We have a few of those folks have joined us this morning, and I'd like to recognize them. We have Dr. Richard Coffey is here. He's department head at Oklahoma State. Richard, if you'd stand. Dr. Rosie Nold, who's assistant department head at South Dakota State University. And I believe Dr. Neil Schrick with the University of Tennessee has joined us. Let's thank them for being here and for their support. At this time, I'm going to call forward Steve Spivey. Steve is going to provide us a historical background of our national contest. That's one of the traditions we have each year at this breakfast, is to provide you some perspective on those that have sat in those seats before you in the long and glorious history of this great event. Steve?
Thank you, Scott. Since you all missed class yesterday and are missing class today, this is History 241. It's going to be a brief synopsis of the history of this contest. The first National Collegiate Livestock Judging Contest was held in conjunction with the International Livestock Exposition in Chicago that opened in 1900. 6 colleges were represented at that time, as well as a college. In addition to these college boys, as they were referred to, representing these schools, farmers' sons, young men who were not enrolled into college but grew up on a farm with livestock, were also eligible to compete. The International was organized and sponsored by the Chicago Union Stockyards, founded in 1865. The entrance to the yards was through this iconic stone archway gate, shown here as it appeared in 1900. Today, this is the stone gate as it looks now. It was built in 1875, and it is the only reminder left of what was often referred to as the busiest square mile in the world. The yards closed in 1970, but during its 105 years of operation, over 1 billion head of livestock were sold through the yards. At its peak in the 1920s, over 13 million head of livestock were sold every year. And 80% of the meat that was consumed in the United States went through the packing plants that adjoined the yards. A city within a city, the yard had its own fire department, police force, water and sewer systems, and an electric generating plant. Over 40,000 people were employed by the stockyards and its adjoining packing plants. The original pavilion where the International was held was destroyed by the 1934 stockyards fire. This huge amphitheater was built in just 7 months to replace the original structure, and at the time it was the largest indoor arena in the United States. It hosted the international sporting events and concerts and stood for 65 years until it was demolished in 1999. The symbol of the International was this bronze bull sculptured by well-known French artist Isidore Bonheur. Its likeness was on the cover of every international catalog for its entire 76 years. This is a photo of the 1974 Diamond Anniversary catalog. The International and the Collegiate Contest were held annually right after Thanksgiving, except for 1914 and 15, when there's an outbreak of hoof and mouth disease in the United States, and during World War II from 1941 through 1945. And yesterday you participated in the 118th edition of this contest. The contest awards banquet was held at the Saddle and Sirloin Club in the picturesque Stockyard Inn, which was next to the amphitheater. Built in English Tudor style, the inn was constructed after the 1934 fire that destroyed the club's original home in the Purebred Livestock Records building. The club was a gathering location for persons conducting business at the yards, with a portrait collection to honor the great leaders of the livestock industry. The awards banquet was held in this large banquet hall of the club. Its walls were lined with over 100 portraits of the all-time great leaders in the livestock industry. It is impossible to express in words what an awesome setting it was for both coaches and contestants alike. In 1903, Arthur Leonard, who was manager of the stockyards, Robert Ogilvie from the Clydesdale Association, and Alvin Sanders from the Breeders' Gazette came up with the idea of creating a club room in the stockyards where livestock leaders who worked at the yards as well as visitors could gather in a relaxed setting. The tradition of honoring leaders of the livestock industry having their portraits presented to the club began that same year. The gallery soon became recognized as the livestock industry's Hall of Fame. Over the decades, as many as 3 to 5 portraits would be added to the gallery each year. Since moving here to Louisville in 1977, only 1 portrait is added each year. The gallery is believed to be the largest in the world devoted to a single industry, with over 375 portraits. John Craig. He's the man who is ultimately responsible for all of us being here today. He is considered to be the founder and the inventor of the livestock judging contest. He became head of the first Department of Animal Husbandry in the United States at the University of Wisconsin. He developed the first scoring system to evaluate and judge livestock of all species, and developed the system and structure of the first livestock judging contest for students and farmers in Wisconsin in 1892. He organized the first intercollegiate livestock judging contest at the Trans-Mississippi Exposition in 1898, and was one of the principal organizers of the first contest at the International. Craig's book, Judging Livestock, was first published in 1901, and for many years it was considered the authoritative source for livestock judging and evaluation. Like many other livestock industry leaders we will highlight this morning, John Craig's portrait hangs in the Saddle and Sirloin Gallery. In 1900 through 1904, the contests were operated by the International Management. In 1905, J.W. Black of the Manitoba Agricultural College served as superintendent for a year. In 1906, this man, J.H. Shepard, who was Dean of Agriculture and later president of North Dakota State University, became contest superintendent, a position he held for 33 years. A saddle and sirloin honoree, many of the central contest procedures and guiding principles instituted by Shepard during his tenure are still being used by us today. The first contest had up to 18 placing classes, with contestants submitting written reasons, with the number of reasons classes determined by the contest officials. Under Shepard's leadership, the number of classes in the contest was set at 12 placing classes, with 15-minute time limit to judge each class. The number of reasons classes was established at 8, and written reasons were replaced with oral reasons with a time limit of 3 minutes, which was later shortened to 2 minutes. Scoring was changed from using a percent correct method to awarding 50 points for a perfect placing and 50 points for a perfect set of reasons, with deductions from 50 for placings and reasons at the discretion of the contest officials. All of these changes instituted by Shepard are still being used today. The first contest in 1900 was won by the University of Illinois. Shown here is the Illinois team with the first bronze bull entitled Bull in Defiant Stance. The first bronze bull was cast in late 1900 and was delivered to the University of Illinois after the contest in February of 1901. The bronze bull was named the Spoor Trophy in honor of John Spoor, who was the driving force behind the creation of the International and its first president. Spoor, who became president of the Union Stockyards in 1890, guided the stockyards during a period of modernization and growth. His portrait hangs in the Saddle and Sirloin Gallery. Iowa State was the first team to receive the trophy at the International when the contests were announced in 1901. Up until 1967, a college could keep possession of the trophy after winning it 3 times. This first bull was retired by Iowa State in 1903, and this is how it appears today in the Iowa State University Animal Science Department. During the early years, horses were an important component of the contest and were included in contest classes from 1900 to 1903. From 1904 to 1907, separate contests were held for livestock and horses. The Dex Amos, a bronze depicting a man kneeling next to a horse, was awarded to the high team in horses and retired by Iowa State in 1907 after 3 wins. The Cain's Bronze Bull, which closely resembles an ox, was awarded to the high team judging livestock from 1904 until it was won for the 3rd time by Ontario Agricultural College in 1907. Beginning in 1908, horses and livestock classes were again combined into a single contest, and this very unique Carlo Romanelli bronze sculpture was awarded to the high team overall and was retired by Iowa State in 1912. The 3rd bronze bull was cast in 1930. It differed significantly from the first bull in that it depicted both man as well as bull. This bull was retired by the most successful school of the 20s, Oklahoma State, after winning it 3 times. The likeness of this bronze was incorporated into the logo of the American Society of Animal Science. The next 3 bronze bulls were also by Baumann-Hur. Shown here are the 4th bull, which is identical to the first. This bull was retired by Kansas State, who made a run of 3 wins from 1936 through 1938. The 5th bronze bull was retired in 1955 by Iowa State. This bronze is titled Bellowing Bull. The 6th edition of the bronze bull was retired by Texas A&M in 1967. This ended the tradition of a college being able to retire the bull after 3 wins. Originals of Bonhour's bronze bulls sell at auction in the upper five-figure range. The seventh bronze bull and the fifth by Bonhour was designated as a perpetual challenge trophy, never to be retired. This is the bronze bull we will award to the high team today that stands up here in front of the podium. If the tradition of a team retiring the bull after 3 wins would have continued, we would have cast 13 new bronze bulls who would have been retired by colleges over that period of time. The contest's other art treasure is the silvery pern, presented to the International in 1950 as an expression of goodwill by the Agricultural Society of England. The value of this art piece has been set in the 6-figure range, and it is a priceless artifact. It was originally crafted in 1858. The earliest record that we have found of a woman competing in the contest is 1917, when Edith Curtis of Iowa State placed 5th overall in the contest. Her father happened to be the Dean of Agriculture and future president of the International Livestock Exposition. Over the next 3 decades, women occasionally competed in the contest, some placing in the top 5 in a species or overall. 35 years after Edith Curtis competed in the contest, Minnie Lou Ottlinger Bradley, a member of the 1952 Oklahoma State team pictured here, was the first woman to be high individual in the contest. Her accomplishment was so significant, it made the front page of the Chicago Tribune. Since then, 10 women, 4 in the last 9 years, have won the contest. Minnie Lou is a true pioneer in animal agriculture and was inducted into the Saddle and Sirloin Club in 2014. Throughout this contest history, many people just like you sitting here this morning, have gone on to become leaders in the livestock and agriculture industries. For example, in the last year of the decade of the 1950s, Dr. Dud Wythe, new coach at Texas A&M, took the Aggies to a national championship. His teams continued to be tough competitors during the 60s, winning 2 more. Shown here are those teams, including the 1967 Texas A&M team, which is considered one of the greatest of all time. 3 of these team members became faculty members at Texas A&M: John McNeil, Jim Sanders, and Larry Bowman. Another of the great teams in contest history is the 1961 champion team from Oklahoma State, coached by Jack McCluskey, and it included future Saddle and Sirloin honoree Robert Tadashek. Their winning score stood as a record for 40 years. 2 team members went on to coach national champion teams, Glenn Richardson and Bill Abel, who you will hear from later this morning. 6 of these team members served on faculty at 9 different universities, including 2 as department heads. 2 members became executive secretaries of national breed associations. There were no dominant teams during the last 15 years of the contest. Was in Chicago, Kansas State, Texas A&M, and Purdue had 2 wins each. In the final years of the International saw a rapid decline in the number of livestock sold through the stockyards and exhibited at the International. The stockyards closed in 1971, but the International continued, celebrating its 75th anniversary in 1974. In 1975, the decline in attendance in livestock exhibited made the show financially unstable. On July 2nd, 1976, the International Livestock Exposition was canceled due to inadequate financial backing. Today, what was once the busiest square mile and the amphitheater is now a very successful industrial park on the south side of Chicago. As Corinne mentioned in her remarks, the first North American Livestock Exposition was held in Louisville in 1974. One of the key proponents of that new show was Jack Ragsdale, the high individual in the 1948 contest. Managed by Harold Workman with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, the show quickly attracted breed association meetings and new species to its lineup. In 1975, the Expo hosted its first collegiate judging contest with 25 teams. With the closing of the International, the national contest was moved to Louisville in 1976, where it has been held ever since. Ragsdale and Workman were also instrumental in having the Saddle and Sirloin Club relocated to this location. For their contributions to the formation and growth of this show, the portraits of Harold Workman and Jag Ragsdale now hang in the Saddle and Sirloin Gallery. In the 1970s and 80s, were dominated by Purdue University, coached by Roger Hunsley to my left, and Kansas State, coached by Bill Abel. This slide shows Dr. Abel's Kansas State team that won the 1983 National Championship. A member of this team, Dr. Scott Shockey, was high individual in the contest and went on to lead the Kansas State team to 5 national championships as a coach. We're going to honor this team this morning. Dr. Roger Hunsley coached the winning teams from Purdue in 71, 73, and 78. After his coaching career, he went on to lead the American Shorthorn Association as its executive secretary. And for his contributions as a coach, educator, and breed executive, his portrait now hangs in the gallery. From 1976 through 1985, 9 different universities were the high team overall, and 9 of the high individuals were from different schools. The period beginning in 1986 to the present can sometimes be referred to as a dynasty area, with 6 universities: Iowa State, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Texas A&M, and Texas Tech being the dominant schools. Only 2 other schools with 1 win each have won the national contest during that period. During the late 1980s and early 90s, Iowa State had 4 winning teams from 1986 to 1993. In the upper left is the 1986 Iowa State team, coached by Dr. Chris Skaggs, who is now at Texas A&M, and Dr. Scott Greiner, our current superintendent, was the high individual in that contest. He later coached the winning team at Iowa State in 1992 and 1993. Iowa State won 4 national titles and had 1 high individual overall during this area, and is one of the winningest schools in the history of the contest with 20 national championships. Iowa State also has a very unique distinction. They are the only university to have a team entered in all 118 national contests. Between those Iowa State wins were 3 straight championships by Oklahoma State, coached by Gerald Callahan, this year's Saddle and Sirloin Club honoree. Teams from Kansas State, coached by Dr. Scott Shockey, had an unprecedented 5 consecutive wins from 1994 through 1998. In the upper right is the 1995 K-State team, which included high individuals in the contest: Chris Mullinex, the current Kansas State coach. In 1994, Mark Hogue was the high individual in the contest and is now a coach at Western Illinois. Kansas State has produced 8 high individuals overall since 1985. Ryan Rathman coached Texas A&M to 3 consecutive victories in 2002 through 2004, and again in 2006. The Texas A&M Aggies were crowned national champions again in 2006, culminating an incredible year in which they won every contest they were entered in. Dr. Blake Bloomberg, a recent coach at Oklahoma State and now at Blackhawk East, was a member of that team and high individual in the contest. Since 1985, Texas A&M has won 7 national contests and had 4 high individuals. Texas Tech won the contest in 2007, 8, 9, 11, and 15. With these wins, Ryan Rathman has coached a record 8 winning teams and joins Dr. Abel and Dr. Skaggs as coaches to lead winning teams at 2 different universities. The 2008 Texas Tech team holds the record for high score in this contest. In 2012, Oklahoma State took home the championship team honors with his fourth national championship team. Dr. Mark Johnson is among the most winningest coaches in history. 2013, Texas A&M, coached by Brant Poe, won the national contest, and we're going to hear more about that team later on this morning. Texas Tech was victorious in 16. In addition to its 5 high team honors, 4 high individual contests were on a Tech team since 1985. Oklahoma State won 3 consecutive contests in 17, 18, and 19, putting Coach Blake Bloomberg among the winningest and most successful coaches in history. Oklahoma State has been the most dominant team in the contest the past 35 years, with 12 high teams and 9 high individuals. Kansas State achieved their first win since 1998 in 2020. Coach Mullinex became the 5th former high individual in the contest to go on and coach a winning team, joining J.C. Holbert, Scott Shockey, Scott Greiner, and Blake Bloomberg in that accomplishment. With wins in 21 and 22, Oklahoma is now the winningest school in contest history with 22 national championships. As Corinne mentioned in her remarks, in addition to J.H. Shepard, 3 of the contest superintendents, since it has moved to Louisville, have been honored by having their portraits inducted into the Saddle and Sirloin Gallery. Dr. Harlan Ritchie, former coach at Michigan State, who organized the first contest held here in 1975, served as the contest superintendent through 1986. Dr. David Hawkins, who also coached teams at Michigan State and was the 2nd high individual in 1962, served as superintendent from 1996 through 2005. And finally, Dr. Gary Minish, who coached and served as department chair at Virginia Tech and later dean of agriculture at Southern Illinois, served as superintendent from 1987 to 1989. Corinne, you get an A on your history. And very shortly, we're going to find out who is the champion team of the 118th national contest.
Thank you, Steve. I always appreciate that perspective. And I'd like to share with the room that Steve's very humble and put that history together and tweaks it every year. But to my knowledge, the only person that has been truly engaged and involved in every single contest in the 50 years that it's been at the North American is Steve Spivey. He started as a student under Dr. Ritchie, which you just heard about, competed, I believe, the 2nd year it was here, and has been engaged in the contest every single year. Steve, thank you for all you do. We appreciate it. Let's congratulate Steve, please. All right, the other thing that's tradition at our banquet, we've got the 10-year and the 40-year team. Both have come back to celebrate and reminisce. We're going to start with the 10-year team. To do that was their coach, Dr. Brant Poe. The 10-year team's from Texas A&M. Lots of you are familiar with Dr. Poe. He's now on faculty at Tarleton State University, but we look forward to learning more about what those folks from 2013 have been up to over the last decade. Dr. Poe?
It's real quiet, real quiet. First and foremost, I just want to say a huge thank you to the North American, as well as Dr. Greiner, for inviting us to come back. It's so nostalgic, and it's crazy how fast the world gets, and how we don't necessarily get together as much as what we should. And so it's been an awesome time to recollect and to think back and talk about your 108th national champion judging team. That's crazy, right? So we're going to crown the 118th one here in a little bit, but the 108th. So a little earlier, whenever Mr. Spivey was going through and he was introducing myself and even Dr. Greiner, I have to say our year was an interesting year. One of the things that was most interesting was the fact that I had been at Blinn College, and so I transitioned from a junior college there to A&M in August. And so I can't necessarily take any or much of the credit necessarily for putting together that team. And so that we were a three-man coaching panel. And so I'd have to introduce a couple of those guys and their spouses as we get ready to move in to introduce the team. So as we just think about Texas A&M, we do things in the increment of 12. It's pretty important to Aggies. And so this team would have been the 12th national champion livestock judging team from Texas A&M. And so it was pretty cool because the 10-year anniversary team they had mentioned earlier from 2003 was here the day that we were fortunate enough to win on November the 19th of 2013. So let me introduce you real quickly. Both of our coaches that coach alongside myself gone on and had some tremendous successes, whether it be in the coaching realms or judging. First, though, I want to introduce let me back up just a little bit and say, I want to say a big thank you. I know we've got some spouses. I met Dr. Henley's wife a little bit earlier. A big part of a livestock judging coach's life is a spouse. And so I want to say a big thank you. Put your hands together for those people because they make a big sacrifice of keeping things together back home. And so Caleb Boardman's the first guy that I want to introduce that was a part of the coaching crew there. Caleb is joined by his wife Kylie. They they've got 3 kids. And so they've got Cash, and then they've got a pair of twins in Tatum and Tinsley. Currently, Caleb lives in College Station's close enough, right? And so he obviously is coaching the livestock judging team there at Texas A&M. After he had finished his master's, he went to the University of Wyoming. Then he came back. And so Caleb has had a really successful run there at A&M. They had the reserve national champion team last year, and I think they're in the mix of things potentially today. And so Caleb, thank you for coming. We did get to hang out with them because they were kind of here with at the critique as much last night, but Caleb's an awesome guy. Next guy that I want to introduce is Mr. Cassidy Hayes. And so Cassidy and his wife Haley, they live in Port Lavaca, and they've got a little boy named Revan, who's 3. And so Cassidy kind of returned back to part of the land and the crop that his dad had kind of put together. And so down there, they raise their row crop as well as they run a very successful nationally competitive show pig operation and got some boars in stud. And one of the really cool things, I guess this past week, he and Haley were named as one of the 3 finalists for the Farm Bureau Young Farmer and Rancher Awards, and so that's a pretty big deal in the state. And so, Cassidy, thank you guys for coming. It's good to see you guys. And yeah, I asked some of these our coaches as well as some of the teammates. Said, what would be like one of your biggest takeaways from your year? And so Cassidy said, adversity can be your greatest teacher. And I think that's something we'll hear about a little bit later. Myself, I'm flying solo this week. My wife, Lauren, is holding down the fort back home, and I couldn't have done anything, can't do anything without her. And so we've got 2 girls, Addison and Charlie. Funny enough, this is Addison's first year to show, and she actually has a steer that we named Spore because he kind of looked like the Spore Trophy at one point whenever he came in with his horns. So anyway, we live there in Stephenville, Texas. And so as we just talked real briefly about this team, I feel that those kids that we're fixing to introduce, they came to Texas A&M because they wanted to be Aggies. And they wanted to get that kind of an education, and judging was not necessarily secondary because they all were wanting to be competitive, but it didn't matter who was going to be driving the van and who was going to be the coach, and they were there. And so I had that opportunity to start in August alongside of Cassidy and Caleb, and we had one that was a transfer from South Plains, 2 that were in-house, and one of those is partially in-house because she had judged for Chuck Real for a while, so I don't necessarily call that in-house. But we had 2 from Modesto, 2 from Butler, and then we had 5 that had ridden in the van for me for several years that were move-overs from Blinn. So some students that are not here, they don't have a slide up there, but Zach Davis lives with his wife and 3 kids there in Montgomery. He works in the oil field industry. Katie Eslick, a lot of you guys may have came in contact with Katie. Katie had worked in the medical research sector, but then she moved over in 2018 to the Arizona National. And so at the Arizona National, she's the coordinator of development and engagement with the Arizona National. Katie Keys Jacob and her husband David, she had worked for JBS. And with her son Jace, daughter Savannah and Kennedy, they live in Robstown, and so she works in Hausman Foods. Holly Barons Rader and her husband Evan, they live in South Dakota. And so Holly had finished her master's degree there at Oklahoma State. She was an auctions coordinator at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo. And then they moved up to South Dakota, and she works for the Chamber of Commerce. And she's a vice president of member relations, and she also plays a big role in the Sioux Empire Livestock Show. So some of the folks that are here, and so we're fortunate that we had, I think, 8 of them that made it back. So I'd like to introduce you to Kit Closio. Kit is from Hondo, and Kit, his family, they raise some club lambs. They've got 350 ewes. They got a little drift into the show cattle world too. They've bought some American club calf mamas, and so they're kind of on that venture as well. Kit's coached quite a few 4-H teams, as well as judged some livestock shows. Next person I want to introduce is Connie Kelso Williams, and her husband Galen. They had purchased a piece of land of the family farm back in Seguin, and they are growing their herd. We kind of had a little debate on this last night, is how I was going to say it. They're growing some southern Herefords, and so Hereford marked cattle that can classify in the southern markets for steers, and a lot of us are familiar with that. Professionally, Connie works in the lending industry. She's been named as the Rookie of the Year, top producer. She currently works as a mortgage load consultant for First United Bank. And so they are volunteers. You might have seen them at the San Antonio Stock Show. They volunteer on the local level, and so we're very, very thankful that they were here. One of the cool takeaways that Connie said, it's okay not to be perfect. In fact, perfection is the enemy of growth. And so I think that's pretty pertinent. Brett, it's kind of funny. A lot of you know Brett Moriarty. He hails from Washington originally. I was like, dude, you put Washington on your bio. You're not from Washington. I see you at a jackpot in Texas like every other weekend. And he's like, well, actually, I'm from Navasota. And they were like, oh, he only gets mail in Washington. So he's kind of the gypsy out of the crew. Brett, he came to us with a horse background a little bit after he had spent some time at Butler, but horses were kind of his jam. The comical part is that his friend that's with him today is Miss Sarah Schobert. Sarah is the reigning coach of the national champion horse judging team, and so I'm pretty sure she cracks that whip and keeps him in line in that field pretty easily there. While Brett was finishing up his master's, Brett coached a couple of 4-H teams. Texas, it's a little tougher because we don't get to put together one of those all-star teams, but one of those state 4-H teams came, and they were actually crowned the national champion 4-H team here at Louisville, and so it's a pretty big accolade. Judges all over, helps consult in the southern U.S. and Mexico. One of the cool things that I thought Brett had said beyond the fact that they didn't place the horses right at Fort Worth that year, yeah, he said that talent only gets a person so far. You don't have to like somebody to appreciate their talents and their contributions. The difference of opinion is natural when you bring passionate people together, but focusing on that common goal will overcome just about anything. So Brett, we're glad that you were here. Corey Sanchez. Corey Smiley, as he was often referred to in the van. Corey's that kid that would always claim that he got sick traveling in the van so he could sit up front where he could get by a window. But Corey, he, along with Justin, which we'll talk about a little bit later, they were basically married in college, and so they are still married to the same people, which is good for our crew, right? But Corey and his wife Stephanie, they're raising their boy Stetson and Cooper Cole. They live in Bangs, Texas. They own and operate Sanchez Cattle Company, but he also is the manager for Davis Limousine. And so a pretty cool thing actually just kind of transpired last night. They've raised, multiple national champions in the limousine world, females specifically. And actually last night, I believe the Supreme Champion limousine was a cow-calf pair that was the national champion last year, and then she was crowned the Supreme last night. So that's pretty cool. Corey said, don't ever underestimate your own abilities. Work hard, stay committed. That'll take you as far as you want it to go. The next one that I'd like to introduce is Miss Michaela Spayman Cromwell. Michaela lives in Abbott, Texas, where she's raising her husband Brent, Hudson, and Blair. And so I think that's probably pretty fitting to say if you know Brent. After earning her master's degree, Michaela had served as the director of livestock at the State Fair of Texas from 2015 to 2020. Now, she's a realtor. She's a show mom, and she does some contract work at various shows across the country. One of the takeaways that Michaela said, reflecting back, nobody remembers who won every contest, who talked the high set, or who even busted a class. Go the extra mile. The first mile is the most crowded, but from there forward is the most rewarding. So, Michaela, we're glad that you guys could join us, and definitely appreciate what you've done there for the livestock world. Justin James, his wife, Allie. He's one of those that was married, pretty much in the team there. And they have a little girl named Tatum Lynn. And so Tatum's almost one. He's from Boca Chica, Oklahoma. And so Justin is a partner in a glass technology company. So they put glasses in high-rise buildings. His family's been in that business for a while. But on the thing that he loves, he owns the James Gang Cattle Company. And so that's a multifaceted operation that we know a lot of us that are in kind of the show world, sometimes it's hard to make all those worlds blend in terms of the commercial setting. And so they've really put a lot of effort into that. They run a main Angus cow herd, an AI, and flush quite a few cows. But they are a diversified family farming operation in addition to their glass company. So he said, never let yourself think that you can't do something. We never took the eye off of where we wanted to end up, and we pushed each other to get there. That's something that's pushed me way past judging. It pushes me in everyday life. The next one I want to introduce is Keaton Dodd. You heard Keaton being introduced a little bit earlier. Keaton, he served as an assistant coach for me for a few years, and then he went on and he served as the coach and coordinator at Texas A&M. He's a nationally recognized livestock judge. Keaton got his master's in animal breeding there at Texas A&M. His focus was on Brahman pedigrees and genetics. And that has kind of propelled him into where he is now. And so he works for B.R. Couture, and he lives in Bowling, Texas. He's the director of performance and genetics. And so if you kept up with any of the Brahman stuff, you'd see, I think he had a pretty significant contribution. Last week they had the national champion female and bull at their Brahman show there in College Station. So the last one that I want to introduce is Miss Everly Hayes Hinkie. And so Everly is joined here today with her husband Garrett. They got two boys, Brim and Bence. They reside in Hallettsville. They run a 200-head cow-calf operation, and they run a 60 sow pig operation there, club pig operation. They put a lot of bears in Texas major shows, put a few boars in stud as well. Everly's judged quite a bit in terms of other regional and jackpot shows. She got her master's in education. And then she started teaching as an ag teacher, and now she is a 7th grade career and college pathway instructor. So Everly's statement there, she said, stay positive, be humble, and outwork the rest, even if it's behind the closed doors and nobody recognizes it until the day that it counts the most. And so, Everly, we're really proud of you. So if we give a quick summary here of that year, it was up and down. It was a little interesting. Amongst the 9 contest that I had records on, I think we had 5 different teams had won those contests. We started off the year in a pretty humbling situation at the National Western. We were 8th, and so we knew from that point we had to kind of make some decisions as what we were going to do moving forward. And so we had good buy-in, and those kids worked their tails off, and then a few weeks later they were the high team at the Southwestern Exposition in Fort Worth. That was an interesting day, and we were actually tied with Texas Tech that day, and so that tiebreaker was who had placed higher in reasons, and we were fortunate enough to have won reasons that day. That team was also the high team at the San Antonio Stock Show. They were 3rd at Houston, fifth at the Barra Show, but for a bunch of Southerners, we were fortunate that we won regions that day at the Barra Show. Reserve team at Tulsa, the high team at the State Fair of Texas. That was another kind of big breakthrough. They had 6 out of the top 10 that day at the State Fair in their way to winning the high team. We were 6th at the American Royal, and we had some rough days. And the hogs is where it specifically seemed like it kind of came from for us that day. But boy, we recovered. So at the 108th national contest, I think there were 151 individuals from 31 different universities. That day, Brett was named an All-American. We had some individual accolades. Everly Hayes was 4th high individual. Justin James was the 6th high individual. Keaton Dodd was the 7th. And then we wound up being the champion team in sheep. Justin, who was our resident cattle kid, was the high individual in sheep. We were 2nd in hogs by a point to Kansas State. We won cattle by 4, and we were 3rd in reasons. The points separating 1st and 2nd were 18. The reserve national champion team would have been Texas Tech, and then we were the national champions with 46-62 would have been the total. Just a little quick quote, and I'll get off of here. I know you are tired of hearing me yap, but we always kept in mind the quote, and that quote was a little modification from J. Paul Meyer, but it said, "Whatever you can vividly imagine, you can passionately desire, sincerely believe, and enthusiastically act upon will inevitably come to pass." And so that's something that we kept in mind from the very beginning until the end. And so I thank you guys. I thank the North American, Dr. Greiner, for giving us the time. But please put your hands together for that 10-year crew. We're proud of them.
Thank you, Brant, and congratulations to our 10-year team from A&M, and welcome back, and hope you're enjoying reminiscing. And move on to the 40-year team, and as you've already learned about bits and pieces from the history perspective, that team is from Kansas State, the 1983 team, and coach of that team was Dr. Bill Abel. And we're going to turn it over to Dr. Abel to learn more about his crew from Kansas State.
Come on up, guys. It's a pleasure to be here. I only see one person in the building that's older than I am. I think Roger told me that today, that he's 2 years older than I am, and I'm 84. So this gentleman must be 86. But he was a competitor deluxe. He hated to win, and I hated to lose. So it was a great time. It's a pleasure to be here. I did not know that 40 years later, the crew would have as much fun as they did last night. I know a lot of times we would go out on the workouts on Saturday morning, and about 5 o'clock, a little cold, maybe 30 below, and they'd come running into that deal. But the funny thing about it was, they were in the bar at probably about 2:30 or 3, and then at 5 o'clock, they're getting on the vans to go, and then they patted each other on the back and go to sleep in the vans and where we took off. So it's quite a group, probably one of the best in the country. You've heard some of the stories about some of the people that were on this team, and without a doubt, this was probably one of the best teams that ever walked across this floor. But they're an outstanding group of people. So we're going to go through them just a little bit, and what I'm going to do is to have each one of these gentlemen come up and tell you what they've done, where they've done, and introduce the people that are here with them, and they know more about what they're doing. You know, when you're 40 years old, as I am, you know, it's a little different maybe. A great group. We had a great time last night. We thank for being invited back. They truly enjoyed it, and I'm just going to be introducing these folks and let them roll. First man up on the crew here, it says I've got, is Scott Shockey.
Thank you, Doc. Texas A&M, you are a good-looking team. In 30 years, you're going to look older. And I've sat out here at this banquet for about 28 years, and again, as a coach, I was always thinking, these old blue hairs, would they hurry up? And so we're not going to take a lot of time. One thing you'll also recognize, I found out last night, I have a team member behind me here. He had these really dark, deep secrets that finally 40 years later he was willing to share about me. And that would be Mr. Greg Stewart, and y'all probably know the Stewart Mid-Continent family. And so we did have a ball last night. We were hellions, and I would thank Dr. Abel for being such an awesome coach with patience, and to actually have the ability to mold us into what I think we are today. So thank you, Dr. Abel, and I'm sure all these guys are going to say the same. But again, and you all will someday, even though I've coached a lot of people sitting up here on this stage and out there, we had our moments, Corinne, where you probably wouldn't have worshipped me, right? We've had a lot of butt chewings, but I know someday you will look back, and your coach is probably as big a part of your family in the development of your skills as anybody that you've ever been around. So again, that's not a plug for me, it's a plug for your coaches out here today. I am Scott Shockey, my wife, beautiful redhead. We met in college at, well, back up, Lori, there is something here again. Kent McCune, we'll hear from, he had all the picture of the parties that we would have, and so on the lower part of the screen is all the big parties that we had, and we did have a lot of fun. We were social, a group of judging team members, and then Doc is absolutely right. At 5 o'clock in the morning, we would finally get to the van. We would sleep till we get to the workout. Doc, I thought he must have been a woolly bear because it would be 30 below zero. He'd have a little light jacket on, never wear a stocking cap. He'd have a thermometer on his jacket and say, boys, it's only 30 below. It's a great day to be alive, and we were bundled up like Eskimos. But anyway, this is the team. My wife next to me here and behind the big rock. We live in the Flint Hills. We have about 150 cows, and I still work at Kansas State most of the time. My son on the left, and some of you would know Shane. He works for VitaFirm. He's got an ornery little red-headed wife, Melissa. She comes from Maryland, and she is an absolute fireball. I'm very fortunate. I have two great boys, and I have two better daughter-in-laws. So my youngest son on the far right, Shiloh, he is a buyer for National Beef. He buys fat cattle every week, and he married a great gal from Iowa, Jamie Flynn. So that's my family. We're going to, I think, turn it over to Brother Squires. I think he's next in line here.
I think the only reason I'm next is they got the pictures out of order, just to be honest with you. But I speak to several of you out there. I was not able to judge in the final five, but at the same time I was able to capture all the things that Dr. Abel taught me. He was the only coach I ever had. We went direct, both Scott and I went direct to Kansas State and come from counties that really didn't have livestock coaches or FFA teachers and that kind of thing. And so the only coach I really had before Dr. Abel was my grandfather, who used his hands to try to describe which ones were thicker and which ones were deeper and those kind of things. And so I really appreciated my time there. Dr. Abel asked me later on to stick around and help him with the team for the next 2 years. And then I had the opportunity to go to Oklahoma State and work for Gerald Callahan. And so the mentors that I had in my life, which are like the ones you have in your lives now, will make a big impact on where you go. And so I pictured my lovely wife, who has been the mother of my great children that I would put up against anybody, like any proud father. But Maverick would have been on the 2013 team and won cattle here, but more uniquely, he's a hog guy. And he had the opportunity to judge the Barras here at Louisville this last week and really enjoyed that opportunity. My middle son is Gatlin, and he was a big football player that also went to Oklahoma State University, then went on to OU in law, and we've always been proud he was the #1 kid in his class at OU, and he's practicing law there in Oklahoma City. And then my youngest daughter is Gentry, which many of you probably know, and we'll hopefully hear more from that team here later, but Family is so important in where you go in life and what you do, and that's been very dear to me. And I couldn't do it without my wife or the village that helped us raise, because I work at Express Ranches, which I think most of you have probably been there before and visited us during our winter workout, and we love to have those. But it's a busy job. It's an hour and 15 from where we live, and so I'm a commuter is what I am. But it had great opportunities, and it all stems back to those that I learned from Dr. Abel. And some of those isms that we hear is, it's a great day to be alive. Good ones up, bad ones down. And Gentry has been drove nuts with that one. All my 3 kids have. And so there's a lot of good things in life that you'll learn. And it's amazing. You'll blink, and it'll be 40 years later. Congratulations to all the winners today.
Greg, I think you're up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Greg Stewart from Mid-Continent Farms. We have a diversified operation. I'll say a little bit, Doc and this whole crew. And to mirror what Ms. Fetter said, this is about relationships. The folks you see in this whole room that sit at your table next to you, competitors, will become your best friends, and they will lift you up. So that being said, I'll get over that part because it's emotional to me, because there's lots of people here that's helped us, our family. Anyway, and we know who they are. And they coached my kids and on. Dr. Shockey, I wouldn't have sent him anywhere else. Mr. Molnix and their family. But anyway, we have a diversified family operation that has grown in the cattle business immensely because of projects like this. A lot about me is because of this. I'm wearing boots. My son Brigham won at some of the great contests in Texas, the great prizes and contests that lifted those kids up and really helped them. So my wife, she's the rock, holds it together. A lot of you know Debbie. She promises she'll be back when our grandkids start showing. We worked her pretty hard, and she's home holding the fort down along with they all reside in Washington, Kansas, which is quite a surprise to me. My oldest, Garrett, was a graduate of Kansas State University, graduate of the vet school. He has a diversified small and large animal clinic. They do a lot of flesh work, et cetera, et cetera. Very, very successful young man. He was a Bell Award winner, I believe, Garrett. Yep, at Kansas State. 2 of the 3 boys were. Brigham, a lot of you know him. He's a nationally renowned livestock judge. He's got a serious case of FOMO right now. He's home building a catalog for our annual sale. If you don't know what FOMO is, I think Shockey says, "What's that?" I said, "Fear of missing out." But Brigham, and I think a lot of you know him. I'm very proud of him. He runs the place. He makes all the mating decisions. He's done management has really improved with Brigham at the helm, and I'll be amiss to say that he had some opportunities to do some things, and he wanted to come home and run the place. It was his life dream. He is the current co-Reasons record owner of, and was a national champion here at this contest, and his coach Chris Molinex was the former Reasons record holder, and a lot of people, including myself, thought that record would never, there was no way that would ever be broken. And the records are being made to be broken, but it still stands today. Pretty proud of that, and the folks that guided him through that were very pivotal. Anyway, and my last one, Tucker. Lots of you know I had a lady from Georgia that even knew, I had no idea who this lady was. She knew who Tucker was, social media and whatnot. He's a lawyer, graduate at Kansas State University. And in Brigham, of course, he was a Bell Award winner at Kansas State too. But to bring this along quickly now, he works in Washington, D.C., resides at home in Kansas. He's the lead or chief, I think is the proper thing would be chief ag policy advisor for Senator Dr. Marshall, senator from Kansas, and he's their legal expert on the staff there at Washington, D.C. So again, look around. These are the folks that will lift you up.
Well, I'm not going to talk quite as long as my teammates here. I know everybody's kind of looking at your watches. My name's Kent McCune. Currently live in Perkins, Oklahoma. I grew up in Butler County, Kansas, great livestock county, and I was on the national champion 4-H team in '78, and then come back in '83 with a great set of guys, and we're national champions again. So just privileged to be on this team, and great experiences through junior college at Colby and at senior college at Kansas State. To get 2 kids, my daughter Mandy lives in Weatherford and has 4 sons, so I got 4 grandsons. And my son Colby lives in Flagstaff, Arizona, and he was on the national champion cross-country team. And they kind of look at me and wonder how he's a runner. But anyway, I ran around the pastures before 4-wheelers were invented. But anyway, out of college, like I say, had great experience on the livestock judging team. That was my world in college. And then after college, I worked for the Kansas Livestock Association as a fieldman for 17 years. And after that, started my own livestock marketing company, primarily seed stock cattle. And I've probably traveled 3 to 4 million miles looking at cattle in the last 40 years. So I travel from Texas to Canada, and I guess people ask what I do. I'm a cattle broker. And so very fortunate to use my experience through judging starting at the age of 7, and I'm still doing it today. Thank you.
I'm Mark Rickleball. I'm from Greeley, Kansas, originally. It's interesting whenever they brought up when the National moved here to Louisville. I was here that year as a 4-H contestant with my 2 older brothers, 1976. I came back in 1981 as a junior college contestant and was fortunate enough to win, and then as a senior college was on the team with this group of characters. Pictures, my wife-to-be Karen. I've been single for oh so long. I finally found her, and she has me rooting for Oklahoma State on weekends that Kansas State isn't playing them. Then it's kind of, we just got to go to separate rooms. My daughter is on the far left, Jordan. She's the one that said she would never be involved in ag. She went to San Diego to University of California at La Jolla and got a political science degree, worked at the White House for 2 years, and now she is the head of government relations for Merck Pharmaceutical, which has a lot of ag products. My son's right next to her. He played golf for Kansas State University. And he still plays a lot of golf, but he works for Farm Credit Services and is a crop insurance. In fact, he is the leading crop insurance salesman in the Farm Credit system. He's number 1. Upon leaving college, 1984, I started teaching ag. And for the first 20 years or so, I struggled with teaching ag and raising and messing with hogs. We had grand champions that I was involved with in Denver, American Royal, Kansas Junior Livestock Show, many state fair champions. In 2010, a purebred Yorkshire Barrow that my brother and I raised won the Kansas State Fair. And I always said whenever a purebred Yorkshire wins, I'm done with hogs, and I stopped it then. We, since then, have got busy with Charolais cattle, and I have a small Charolais herd. That's the gist. It's been a fun ride.
Big man.
I'm R. Scott Barrows, or they refer to me as the judge. So as you can see on the right up there, there's a picture of me on the bench. I get teased from time to time when I have the opportunity to evaluate cattle at a show if I'm bringing my black robe to the show for the backdrop, but I have never done that to date. So the young lady in the left picture was the love of my life. She died in 14, but you rock and roll, you roll on. And probably the greatest thing that this man ever taught me is to handle adversity, take a disappointment, and make yourself even better. And so I've been on the other side of that line to get to judge. I've had the great opportunity, and this team, part of us travel together. So got 2 kids, to make it short and brief. Tara is number 2 principal at the largest and richest middle school in Kansas City, Kansas. She's an educator, working on her doctorate. My son was, her and her husband have 2 kids, and he's been 6A softball coach of the year multiple times. As you can see, I'm we dealt with athletics, so my kids have went a different path. I have a son in Georgia named 6A soccer coach of the year. He graduated from high school in Georgia. I spent 14 years in a multi-state operation in North Georgia, and we had cattle in 4 states. I went home to take care of my parents. I'll never regret going back to West Central Kansas, live in a small town called Etna City. Worked with Mrs. Mullinex at state fair events and cattle and beef shows. I'm just honored to be a part of this group. It's a great ride, and every morning it's a great day to get up and get stuff done. So I'm in the courtroom now. I stay quiet about that, but what a group.
Good morning, I'm Chris Skaggs. Currently I'm Associate Dean for Student Development with the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at Texas A&M University. I also serve as Associate Vice Chancellor, work with stakeholder relations, and I had the opportunity to work with a great group of students and a great coach. There's no question what I learned during this time frame has transcended and moved with me as I went to Iowa State and Texas A&M University. And I'm very proud as we watched the slideshow of their record of success at this event. So just a great, certainly congratulations to this group and to Dr. Abel for a job well done, but I think their impact and their influence transcends as we move into the future. My wife, Misty, is the Chief of Staff for the Dean of the Vet School, Dr. August at Texas A&M University. I have a daughter who's a freshman at Texas A&M. I actually have her in a couple of classes. And I have a younger daughter who's a freshman in high school. So we have a few more years to go. But I think the thing that probably as I reflect back, not only on being with Dr. Abel and learning so much from him and being a part of a great group of young people at that time, is that I lost my dad at the National Western in Denver that year, and as others have mentioned, this is the group of people that lifted me up and helped me through a very challenging and trying time frame. So no question about it, your memories here will last you a lifetime. Again, it's a great part to be a part of this program this morning.
You know, the one thing that he never ever mentions, and I told him I was going to do it today, this young man is kin to me. This is my, so he's a part of our family. His mother is my sister. So we've had a great life together and a great group. The thing, let me mention a couple of things here as we sit here and look out at this room here. You know, we're losing teams that are competing in this contest. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's happening. But I think we need to hit the bucket again and try to get when we had 40 to 42 teams in here when we were before. Now we're down to 23. This is too important. This is the greatest training for young men and young women of anything that you'll do without your careers. This will help you get where you want to go if you stay with it and work with it. But if we're losing people, there's something wrong, and I don't know what that is. It's a sad situation, but thank you for allowing this group to come together. I wish you could have been at the party last night, but I'm probably glad you're not.
Mention Randy.
Oh, oh yes, I did. I forgot to mention one young man that was on this team, Randy Roletter, and he has passed away. Again, in one of those chewers got into him and got into the jaw, and so he left this group and was one of the foundation of this group as well. Thanks for reminding me of that. But folks, it's been great. We love it. I encourage every one of you that are winners, whether you win or not, you'll be a winner for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abel, and congratulations to that group. I can attest to the fact that they were doing their very best to replicate. I don't know what happened after contest 40 years ago, but you were trying to. I can attest the fact they were trying to keep up with you folks in the room. We were witnessing that, and they certainly reminisced extremely well. We're going to get started on awards. First of those will be those awards presented by the Intercollegiate Coaches Association, and glad to have Dr. Skaggs, who coordinates the All-American program, to announce our All-American winners for 2023. Dr. Skaggs?
Before I do that, there was one person that we didn't introduce previously, but she keeps my uncle in line. Judy, we appreciate you being with us here today. Thank you. This is the 24th year that All-American Livestock Judging Awards have been presented. The All-American program was initiated by the Livestock Judging Team Coaches Association and the American Society of Animal Science, and was designed to recognize students who have made a commitment to livestock judging, but just as importantly have excelled in academic performance, university and industry activities, and community service. The following 10 honorees representing 7 universities make up our 2023 team. The average GPA of this year's recipients is an impressive 3.83. Our first honoree is Shannon Anderson from West Texas A&M University. Shannon is president of the Collegiate FFA Alumni Chapter, Agriculture Ambassador, and a member of Block and Bridle, Collegiate Farm Bureau, and Sigma Pi Alpha. She is a 2-time participant in the World Food Prize and Global Youth Institute. She has also collected data with the West Texas A&M Beef Carcass Project in Nebraska. She was a member of the meat judging team, which represented the U.S. and Australia, where they were named Champion International Team. She also participated in a study abroad trip to New Zealand. She was chosen as Outstanding Agricultural Education Underclassman in 2021. She also competed on the Meat Animal Evaluation Team and the Meat Science Quiz Bowl teams. Her interest in meat science and the mentorship of Dr. Lonnie Luchek has shaped her career goals of pursuing a master's and PhD in meat science to become an animal science professor and coach meat judging teams. Do we need them all to go to the backdrop for a photo? Say up here. Shannon, would you come back and join us up front, Shannon? Shannon's not here? Okay, perfect. Our second honoree is Kyle Coward from Texas A&M University, Texas Tech University. He is an active member of the Texas Tech Ag Council, Block and Bridle, Alpha Zeta, and Professional Cattlemen's Association. Kyle held multiple internships during his time at Texas Tech, including Texas Farm Bureau, Texas A&M AgriLife Extension, Purina Feed, and 44 Farms. He has volunteered with youth educational programs, including Ag Awareness Day and Dream Makers. He judged for Clarendon College, where he was high individual at the Fort Worth contest, and was a member of the Reserve National Champion Meat Animal Evaluation Team. His 4-H judging team won the Texas Cup as a top team for contest winnings. He's an animal science major with an agribusiness concentration and hopes to complete a master's in animal science before pursuing a career in animal health and pharmaceutical sales. He is the 5th generation of his family to be involved in ranching, so he plans to continue his family legacy in cattle production as well. Congratulations to Kyle. Our third recipient is Rebecca Fincham from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. She is a member of the Block and Bridle Club, Tennessee Young Farmers and Ranchers, Gamma Sigma Delta, and secretary of the Dairy Science Club. She's participated in numerous internships, including East Tennessee Ag Research Center and Tennessee Farm Bureau, as well as educational experiences with U.S. Beef Academy and U.S. Dairy Consulting. She has been involved with youth outreach activities with Tennessee 4-H Academic Conference and the National Ag in the Classroom program. She was a member of both the livestock and dairy judging teams at the University of Tennessee. Her background in commercial livestock production piqued her interest in conducting research focused on gene editing with cattle. She's majoring in animal science in a 5-year combined bachelor's master's program, and following the completion of her master's, she hopes to continue her education with a PhD in beef cattle genomics and secure a teaching and research appointment at a major university. Congratulations to Rebecca. Our fourth recipient is Elizabeth Hodges from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Elizabeth is involved in numerous organizations, including Historian of the Block and Bridle Club, Ag Communicators of Tomorrow, and the Academic Quadrathlon Team. She is also a Nebraska Pork Ambassador, staff writer for the Farm Progress magazine, intern with Husker Harvest Days, and a student worker for the Institute of Ag and Natural Resources. She's a volunteer with her local 4-H, FFA, and American Red Cross. In addition to the livestock judging team, she was a member of the meat animal evaluation team and meat judging teams. She grew up as a 3rd-generation family member on a purebred Berkshire swine operation. She truly enjoyed her time as a Nebraska pork producer ambassador and plans to serve as an advocate for the swine industry. She will graduate with a double major in agricultural and environmental services communication and animal science, and plans to continue working full-time for Farm Progress magazine with the career goal of becoming an editor of the Nebraska Farmer magazine, while contributing to the direct marketing campaign for her family's purebred Berkshire operation. Congratulations to Elizabeth. Kennedy Hill from the University of Tennessee, Knoxville is our next All-American. Kennedy was a member of the Dairy Club, Block and Bridle, and Undergraduate Research Student Association. She is president of the American Dairy Science Association, advisor for the Tennessee Swine Show Junior Board, and board member of the Tennessee 4-H Foundation. She was also involved with internships associated with the Farm Animal Coalition, ST Genetics, Ohio State Fair, and the East Tennessee Research Center. Her undergraduate research projects investigated metabolic profiles across body composition in beef cattle and postpartum factors affecting fertility rates in dairy cattle. The projects resulted in 1 publication, 4 abstracts, as well as a 2nd-place finish for an original research as the southern section of ADSA. She will graduate with a degree in animal science next May, and then plans to pursue a master's and PhD in reproductive physiology with an emphasis on dairy and beef cattle production. Congratulations to Kennedy. Our next honoree is Allie Jobe from Pennsylvania State University. Allie is a livestock chair of the Block and Bridle Club, vice president of Collegiate Cattlemen's Association, co-chair of the Valley Jackpot Show, and Raising the Grade Cattle School for Pennsylvania Youth. She has held internships with Purina Animal Nutrition, National Cattlemen's Beef Association, and the Pennsylvania Beef Council. She's also participated in food quality and quality assurance externship with Clemens Food Group associated with the commercial pork industry. She has volunteered for Showtime Livestock Camp, Pennsylvania Club Livestock Association, and the American Red Cross. Allie will graduate this December and plans to pursue graduate degrees in ruminant nutrition with the career aspirations of becoming a consultant nutritionist. Congratulations to Allie. Alexis Lake from Oklahoma State University is our next All-American. She is Vice President of the Food Science Club and a member of the Meat Science Association, Block and Bridle, Collegiate Cattle Women's, and Agricultural Communicators of Tomorrow. She's also a member of the American and Wyoming Junior Angus, American Junior Simmental, and American Meat Science Associations. She is a student worker for the OSU Muscle Biology Laboratory, where you see assisted graduate students with research projects on dark cutting beef carcasses, and conducted an undergraduate research project in meat science as well, under the direction of Dr. Morgan Pfeiffer. She assisted with studies of ruminant microbiome influence on cattle pregnancy and pulmonary arterial pressure in feedlot cattle. Alexis was a member of the Wyoming State winning livestock, meat, and poultry judging teams in high school. She judged livestock for Butler Community College, has been on both the livestock and meat animal evaluation teams at OSU. Upon completion of an animal science degree in August 2024, she plans to pursue a master's and PhDs in meat science, in addition to an online dietetic certificate from the University of Northern Colorado. Congratulations to Alexis. Our next All-American team member is Brody Nemechek from Kansas State University. Brody is a Veneer Family Scholar and an animal science and industry mentor who hosts high school and transfer students for KSU visits. He is a Little American Royal Representative on Block and Bridle Officer Team and has been active with Agriculture Future of America. He served as president of the National Junior Swine Association Junior Board and secured an internship with National Pork Board as a swine health intern. He has assisted with swine nutrition research at K-State. He represented Kansas at the National 4-H Judging and Skillathon Contest and received All-American honors in both events. He judged for Butler Community College, in addition to livestock judging at KSU, was a member of the National Champion Meat Animal Evaluation Team. Brody graduates in May 2023 and plans to attain a master's degree in either swine nutrition or business administration at K-State, with a career goal of serving in a leadership position within the National Swine Registry. Congratulations to Brody. Our ninth honoree is Weston Schrader from Kansas State University. Weston is a Hanson Leader of Tomorrow Scholar, NCBA Scholar, College of Agriculture Ambassador, Animal Science and Industry Mentor, and Animal Science Competition Teams President. He is also an active member of Block and Bridle and the Collegiate Cattlemen's Club. He served as president of the American International Junior Charolais Association and represented the association at the Ireland International Beef Conference. He was a two-time Kansas FFA Leadership Development Event winner and national qualifier, member of the Champion 4-H and FFA meat judging teams, and represented Kansas 4-H at the National Livestock Judging Competition, where he received All-American honors. Along with Brody, he was a member of the National Champion Meat Animal Evaluation Team. He will graduate with a Bachelor of Science degree in agriculture and plans to pursue further his education with a Master of Science, a PhD in ruminant nutrition, or beef cattle genomics, with the goal of becoming a Director of Beef Cattle Improvement or Executive Vice President for a major beef cattle breed association. He plans to continue his involvement in his family Charolais and Sim Angus seed stock operation as well. Congratulations to Weston. Before we complete the All-American team roster, let us recognize the assistance of our All-American judges. The evaluators are current or former administrators from across the country. The judges included Dr. Mark McCann, Assistant Dean for Extension at the University of Georgia, Dr. Jim Hurd, former Dean and former Professor at Texas A&M University, Dr. James Kinder, previous Department Chair, Professor, and former coach at The Ohio State University, Dr. Bill Label, former coach at Kansas State and the Department Chair at Mississippi State University, and Dr. Maynard Hoberg, former Department Chair at Michigan State and Iowa State Universities. As we continue our student recognition, Gentry Squires from Oklahoma State University is our final All-American. Gentry is a Regents, Grimes, Pickens, Callahan, and Pirtle Scholar. She is a member of Block and Bridle, Collegiate FFA, Meat Science Association, and Collegiate Cattle Women's. She also serves as Administrative Assistant for the OSU Animal and Food Science Department Chair. She was Student Body President at Butler College, President of the Agriculture Ambassadors, and student representative for Kansas Farm Bureau. She has held internships with the American Angus Association, Cattlemen's Congress, Iowa State Fair, and the Iowa State University Extension. She was a member of the National Junior Angus Association, National Junior Swine Association, American Farmers and Ranchers Youth Council, and Oklahoma Secretary of Agriculture Youth Council. She was a delegate to the Agriculture Future of America Conference. She excelled in FFA competitions with national championships for agri-science fair research, conduct of meetings team, livestock evaluation team, and was the individual state champion prepared for prepared public speaking. She was a JUCO All-American Livestock Judge at Butler Community College and has been a member of the OSU winning team at Cattlemen's Congress, National Western, Dixie National, Houston, and the American Royal. Gentry plans to graduate in May and then continue her education with a master's and PhD degree in animal science to eventually teach at a major land-grant institution. Congratulations, Gentry. This concludes our recognition this morning of the All-American team. Congratulations again to an outstanding set of individuals.
Thank you, Chris, and congratulations to our All-American. Impressive resumes they have, and will continue to grow as those of you in the room will as well. We're going to continue with the Coach of the Year recognition. To do that, Dr. Parker Henley from Oklahoma State has joined us as president of the Coaches Association. Parker?
Thank you, Dr. Greiner. Dr. Hunsley, would you help us out in passing out the award down low there and represent this? So, in 2022, the National Collegiate Livestock Coaches Association voted to change how we award our Coach of the Year, and the changes went from being strictly performance-based to including integrity, sustainability of the program, culmination of 4-year students, and we're doing that through a vote of your peers. And so this is the first year where we have voted amongst our peers for who did the most outstanding job of 2023. And so it's my honor to recognize the Coach of the Year is Blaine French from the University of Nebraska. Blaine began there in 2019, and he specifically this year, he had the reserve champion team at Houston and had the champion team at Exarban, and really has had a successful year. Congratulations to you on an outstanding year. I get to make one more recognition, and I get to recognize another coach. This is somebody that has given 27 years to the sport of livestock judging, and has trained a tremendous amount of credible evaluators, and it's an honor to recognize Chris Mullinex in his final year coaching a team here at the North American. He has not only left his mark as one of the winningest coaches of all time across junior college and senior college, but he specifically led with high integrity, and to me, he is a great educator. I'm proud to call him a friend, a mentor, my coach. Join me, we're going to have a short presentation here on this screen.
Probably the late 80s, early 90s is when I first met Chris Mullinex. I was judging the Maryland State Fair, and it's one of those deals, as a judging team coach, you're always drawn to the young people that are motivated, driven, competitive. They have all those skills that you're looking for as a coach. And so it took me about 5 minutes to watch Chris in the ring showing his little Hereford heifer to realize that this young fellow has what he needs to be a very successful judging team member.
I met Chris Molinex my senior year in high school. I was at a livestock judging contest at the Kansas Beef Expo. My plan was to go straight to Kansas State University and do all those things Kansas State, and getting to know Chris. It felt like a really easy step to go to Butler and judge for him. It really changed my life.
My mom and I were actually at Fort Worth. I was on the Maine Junior Board, and she was a little bit leery of me leaving home and going to a faraway school, which El Dorado is not that far. But by some stroke of luck or maybe strategy, Charlotte Molinex, Chris's mom, sat down next to her during the show. And they just had the best conversation, and obviously Charlotte is Chris's biggest fan, like every mom should be. And my mom left that conversation thinking that, you absolutely have to go there.
I've known Chris my whole life. When I was a young kid, he would bring judging teams up to my parents' place to practice multiple times a year. He left a big impression on me. I also knew quickly that he was passionate about Hereford cattle, and I'm passionate about Hereford cattle. When it came time for me to decide to go down the livestock judging path, there was never a question in my mind that I was going to go judge for Chris at Butler.
The first time I met Chris, he judged my county fair, and it was my first or second year in 4-H, but it wasn't until several years later that I really kind of got to know Chris. Our coach took us out to the Kansas State Fair, and I remember as a young person that just loved it, but didn't really know much about it. I learned more in that night, staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning judging classes from Chris Molinex than I had ever been able to soak up.
People are drawn to like a Chris Molinex. We expect leadership out of him, and he provides it. We always had a few heated discussions sometimes on classes, as you would expect. But one thing about Chris, he was always wanting to make himself better and his team better. Chris had that ability to not only be competitive, but also his competitiveness, I think, rubbed off on other members of the team. They looked at him for leadership, and as a result, this success was just pretty natural.
I think the word that I think of when I think of Chris is intense competitor. And that intensity applies to literally everything that he does. Whether that's coaching, whether that's playing spades, he wants to win, and he wants to do it in the right way. I think that really has always kind of made me hold Chris in a really high regard.
Judging for Chris Molinex was always interesting. I've never met anybody more intense just as a person. He is a competitor. He's going to work you hard. And there's going to be times that he's going to make you question your sanity and his as well when it's negative temperatures outside and he's not wearing a jacket at all because being cold is mental. But it was awesome.
His success in coaching obviously is a great evaluator. He's great in the reasons room. I mean, he was when he was a student here. But the other skill that a lot of coaches that are successful have, and he has, is the ability to take a team of 15, 20 different personalities and treat each one of them just a little bit differently to get the most out of them.
When I think of my favorite things about Chris as a coach, his passion, his ability to start with the basics and continue to build off of each student's ability. And he doesn't coach a team by mass. He really focuses on making each individual better each and every day.
What I really appreciated about Chris was that he did a great job of, in my mind, recruiting people and talent rather than just short-term success. And because of that, I had just an exceptional team that I'm still close with today. And Chris, I thought, did a really good job of molding his coaching style or his individual feedback to what phase you were. And so I really appreciated that, because although I knew I was behind, I never felt like I was behind. He said, and I truly believe, that what he cared about was recruiting people that were good stock kids, that were good communicators, that were hungry to learn.
I I think one of the biggest things that every young person that's been coached by Chris Molnix would be very thankful for is the fact that he takes a chance on them. You know, Chris doesn't care where you're from, how much experience you have, anything about your background. He wants, you know, young people that are willing to work for it, young people that are really passionate about it, and I'm an example of that, and many of the other people that he's coached are an example of him meeting a young person at a county fair or seeing them at a 4-H judging contest and taking the time to get to know them and establish a relationship with them, and then someday getting to coach them and help develop them.
We look at past coaches. I think there's been 13 past coaches at Kansas State over the last 100 and some years. And they all had the same goal. It's always been a departmental goal that, yes, we'd like to be successful, but our real goal is to produce outstanding people. I should not be surprised when I look back at my own students. I look at Chris's students here that are more recently graduated and what they're doing. They are the leaders. They're the leaders in agriculture, and it should not surprise anybody because I think they came here with the idea that, yeah, we'll have a good experience judging. We'll learn how to place 4 animals. But, you know, down the road, this is where I want to be, and who can help us get to that point.
I think what makes Chris successful is his willingness to do the little things. Chris isn't the type of person to call something good enough. Chris wants it to be right. And I think that kind of integrity, not only in terms of process and approach to work, also kind of speaks to who he is as a person.
My experience at Butler Community College was life-changing. I mean, it really was. The people that I met, because of the people that Chris recruited and brought together there in the old L-Dog, that's what I'm going to call it, was awesome. When you think back to that and you think back to the one person that was responsible for it, you know, it's Chris Molnix. And the impact that he had on not only my life, but my teammates and all the teams that he's coached has been pretty tremendous. And I guess what I'm the most proud of is to think about all the people that he's coached and what they've all done for the industry. You know, to be a part of his alumni group and his legacy is really humbling.
None of us ever maybe saw this day coming that he was going to, you know, turn the reins over and take a step back, but we all know that he's going to continue to be involved.
I'm looking forward to Chris's opportunity to spend more time with his kids because I know that he is excited to push his kids to be great at whatever they choose to do, just like he was his students.
You know, I'm proud of what he's done, what he's accomplished, what he will continue to do for Kansas State. Again, those kind like Chris Molnix are a rare find, and I'm just so fortunate that we're able to have him, you know, as part of our team here at Kansas State, and I think a teammate forever.
Thank you to him and his family because we've got to know his mom and dad through the process, his brothers, and now his family. That's been really neat that they've allowed us to be a part of their immediate family, and so thanks, Chris and family.
You know, if I thought about what would all the students say about Chris, I think the first thing they'd want to do is say thank you. I think the older his students get, the more developed they get in their career, they look back and realize how valuable their time with him was. The values that he instilled in his students, the basics that he gave them are still paying dividends that some haven't even discovered yet. And I think that they would each probably have a similar response, maybe in a different way, but I think they just want to say thank you.
On behalf of not just myself, but every young person that Chris has coached over the years, we owe you a big thank you. We thank you for the sacrifices that you made with your own family to put your second family first, all the miles down the road, the late sleepless nights, the gas station food, and McDonald's over the years. We can't say thank you enough for your dedication to making young people and making our industry better.
Please join me in congratulating Chris on an exceptional career.
Well done, guys, and congratulations, Chris, and thank you. Look forward to your continued involvement, and I know you'll continue to be involved. With that, the time you've been waiting for, I'll turn things over to Joel Cowley, and we'll get into the awards for your 118th Annual National Collegiate Livestock Judging Contest.
Thank you, Dr. Greiner, and congratulations to you all. We will begin with the Sheep and Goat Division. If we could please have Ann Kreider with the American Sheep Improvement Association, Brenda Rao with the National Sheep Improvement Program, Jeff Ebert with the American Hampshire Association, and Deborah Hopkins with the Continental Dorset Club move to the front of the table to help present awards. High individuals, sheep and goats with 300 possible points. We had a four-way tie for 10th high individual. Receiving recognition only in 13th position with a score of 287 points, Jennifer Holscher from South Dakota State University. In 12th position, recognition only, 287 points, Eric Schaefer from Oklahoma State University. In 11th, again with 287 points, from Texas A&M University, receiving recognition only, John Reeves. Winning the tiebreak for 10th high individual in sheep and goats, again with a score of 287 points, from Oklahoma State University, Caden Church. 6th through 10th high individuals in this division all receive a silver plate from the American Sheep Industry Association. A tie for 8th in 9th position with a score of 288 points from Iowa State University, Mackenzie Harith. And it's perfectly fine to clap if you so choose. Winning that tie break, 8th high individual, 288 points from Oklahoma State University, Gentry Squires. A tie for 6th. 7th position with a score of 289 points from Iowa State University, Dylan Scheiss. Winning that tiebreak in 6th position with 289 points from the University of Nebraska, Brett Forgy. 1st through 5th high individuals all receive a silver plate from Harper Livestock Company. A tie again for 4th high individual in 5th position with 290 points from Texas Tech University, Jake Dawson. Winning that tiebreak at 290 points from Texas Tech University, Case Laurel. 1 point higher in 3rd position, 291 points from Iowa State University, Robbie Burchett. In 2nd position with 292 points from Kansas State University, Will Banks. And the high individual in sheep and goats receiving a livestock cane from the North American International, a silver plate from Harper Livestock Company, and a Revere bull from FD and Joy McCarthy and family with 294 points from Kansas State University, Brody Nemechek. High teams in sheep and goats with 1,500 possible points. The 5th high team with a score of 1,411 points, South Dakota State University. If we could please have a representative come forward. Second through fifth high teams all receive a plaque from the National Sheep Improvement Program. A tie for third position. The fourth high team in sheep and goats with a score of 1,417 points, Kansas State University. Winning that tie break in third position, 1,417 points, Texas Tech University. If we could have someone come forward, please. Someone from Texas Tech, please. Second high team in sheep and goats with a score of 1,423 points, Oklahoma State University. And the high team in sheep and goats, receiving a rotating trophy from the American Southdown Breeders Association, a plaque from the American Hampshire Sheep Association, and Revere Bowls to the team members and coach from Hummel Livestock with 1,436 points. If we could please have the entire team and the coach forward, Iowa State University. The high team in performance sheep receiving a plaque from the Continental Dorset Club with 482 points. If we could have a representative from Oklahoma State University. And as that representative comes forward, the high team in sheep and goat reasons receiving a plaque from the United Suffolk Sheep Association, also Oklahoma State University. Moving on to the swine division, if we could please have Mr. Ernie Barnes, representing the National Pork Board, and tying NAILE with United Animal Health, move to the front table. Sixth through 10th high individuals all receive a crystal clock from Swine Genetics International. We had a three-way tie for 8th, in 10th position with a score of 286 points from Iowa State University, Mackenzie Hareth. In 9th, with 286 points, from South Dakota State University, Hunter Miller. Winning the tiebreak in 8th position, 286 points from Texas A&M University, Michaela Grady. A tie for 6th, in 7th position with a score of 287 points from Oklahoma State University, Ty Drack. Winning the tiebreak in 6th position with 287 points from Oklahoma State University, Caden Church. Third through 5th high individuals all receive a Revere Bowl from Shipley Swine Genetics. In 5th, 288 points from Texas Tech University, Case LaRoe. In 4th position, 1 point higher, 289 points from Kansas State University, Brody Nemechek. A tie for second in third position with a score of 290 points from Chico State University, Abby Walker. Winning that tiebreak at 290 points from the University of Nebraska, Brett Forgy. Top two individuals receive a Revere Bowl from Sunglow Feeds. And the high individual in swine receiving a silver plate from Weichman Pig Company, a livestock cane from the North American, and the Revere Bowl from Sunglow Feeds with 291 points from Texas A&M University, John Reeves. And before our top 10 depart for their photo, the high individual in swine reasons receiving a crystal clock from Swine Genetics International with 97 points from the University of Nebraska, Brett Forgy. And the high individual in performance swine receiving a plaque from the National Swine Improvement Federation, Brody Nemechek with a score of 97 points. The high teams in swine with a possible 1,500 points. Second through fifth high team all receive a plaque from United Animal Health. In fifth position with a score of 1,405 points, South Dakota State University. If we could please have a representative come forward. In fourth with a score of 1,407 points, Texas Tech University. In third, again receiving a plaque from United Animal Health with 1,409 points, Kansas State University. The second high team in swine with 1,414 points, Texas A&M University. And the high team in swine receiving a $500 scholarship and a plaque from the National Pork Board, a plaque from United Producers, and plaques to the team members from the National Swine Registry with 1,422 points. If we could please have the entire team and the coach forward from Oklahoma State University. And as Oklahoma State University makes their way forward, they were also the high team in swine reasons with a score of 472 points, and the high team in performance swine with a score of 476 points. For those honors, they'll receive plaques to the team members and coach from the National Swine Registry and a plaque from the National Swine Improvement Federation. Move on now to the cattle division. And if we could please have Mr. Shane Bedwell from the American Hereford Association, Caroline Davis from Sullivan Supply, and Dr. Dan Eversole to help present these awards. High individuals in cattle with a 400 possible point. We had a tie for 10th. In 11th position with a score of 382 points, receiving recognition only from Texas Tech University, Jake Dawson. Winning that tiebreak, the 10th high individual in cattle, 382 points from Oklahoma State University, Ty Drack. And our 6th through 10th high individuals and cattle all receive a Revere Bowl from the American Gelbvieh Association and a paperweight from the American Hereford Association. In 9th position, with 383 points, from Western Illinois University, Kendra Myers. The 8th high individual in cattle with a score of 384 points from Mississippi State University, Helen Oglesby. We had a tie for 6th and 7th position with a score of 386 points from Oklahoma State University, Eric Schaefer. Winning that tiebreak in 6th position, 386 points from Oklahoma State University, Gentry Squires. Top 5 individuals all receive a Revere Bowl from Sullivan Supply and a paperweight for the American Hereford Association. In 5th position, with a score of 387 points from the University of Nebraska, Ainsley Fisher. A 3-way tie for 2nd. In 4th position, with a score of 388 points from Oklahoma State University, Pace Middlestat. Third position, also with a score of 388 points from Texas Tech University, Ross Wingert. And winning the tiebreak for 2nd with a score of 388 points from Oklahoma State University, Caden Church. The high individual in cattle receiving a $500 award from Dr. Dan and Sandra Eversole and family, a Revere Bowl from Sullivan Show Supply, a livestock cane from the North American, a trophy from the American Hereford Association, a briefcase from the American Angus Association, and a paperweight from the American Hereford Association with 390 points from Texas A&M University, John Reeves. Moving on to the high individual and cattle reasons before they depart. Just a moment, please. High individual and cattle reasons receiving a silver pitcher from the American International Charolais Association with a score of 146 points from Oklahoma State University, Caden Church. We'll move on now to the high teams in cattle. If we could have Jeff Bedwell remain at the front, and if we could have Jeff Langmeyer with Urus, Garrett Stanfield with Transova, and Keaton Dodd with BR Cottrell Incorporated. Please step forward to join him. Top 5 teams in cattle all receive a plaque from Urus. In 5th position with a score of 1,853 points, South Dakota State University. If we could please have a representative come forward. The 4th high team in cattle with a score of 1,885 points, Western Illinois University. If we could please have a representative. The 3rd high team in cattle with a score of 1,890 points, Texas Tech University. The 2nd high team in cattle with a score of 1,901 points, Texas A&M University. If we could have someone come forward, please. And the high team in cattle receiving a $500 scholarship from Certified Angus Beef, a plaque from United Producers, a plaque from Urus, a rotating plaque for the American Hereford Association, and silver plates to the team members and the coach from the American Angus Association with a score of 1,930 points. If we could please have the team and the coach come forward from Oklahoma State University. And as Oklahoma State makes their way forward, they were also the high team in cattle reasons with 720 points. And for that, they will receive a plaque from the American Shorthorn Association. High teams in performance cattle. We had a tie for fifth with a score of 715 points in sixth position, receiving recognition only, the University of Tennessee. Second through fifth high teams all receive a plaque from Select Sires in memory of Roy Wallace. Winning the tie break in fifth position with 715 points, Kansas State University. If we could please have a representative. The fourth high team in performance cattle with a score of 716 points, Texas Tech University. In third position with a score of 720 points, South Dakota State University. The second high team in performance cattle with a score of 724 points, Oklahoma State University. And the high team in performance cattle receiving a plaque from the Beef Improvement Federation with 730 points, Texas A&M University. High individual and performance cattle, there was a seven-way tie. And winning that tie break with 148 points from Texas A&M University, John Reeves. John will receive a plaque from B.R. Cottrell Incorporated. The high team in all performance classes receiving a plaque from the American Mainland Jew Association and silver plates to the team members from the Red Angus Association of America with 1,682 points, Oklahoma State University. If we could please have a representative come forward. We'll move on to the high individuals and reasons of the Reasons Division. If we could please have Michael Hampton with Central Life Sciences come forward, and if we could please also have Dr. Bill Abel come forward to present these awards. Sixth through 10th high individual reasons all receive a Revere Bowl from Central Life Sciences. In 10th place, with a score of 371 points from Texas Tech University, Cash Horton. In ninth position, with a score of 372 points, from Texas Tech University, Ross Wingert. Eighth high individual in reasons, with 373 points, from Oklahoma State University, Ty Drack. We had a tie for sixth. In seventh position with 375 points, from Oklahoma State University, Eric Schaefer. Winning the tiebreak in sixth position with 375 points, from Oklahoma State University, Pace Middlestat. Top five individuals all receive a Revere Bowl from Ranch House Designs. In fifth position with 378 points, from Kansas State University, Brody Nemechek. In fourth, with a score of 379 points, from Texas A&M University, John Reeves. Third high individual in reasons, with a score of 380 points, from the University of Nebraska, Brett Forgy. And we had a tie for a high individual in reasons. In second position, with a score of 383 points, from Oklahoma State University, Caden Church. And the high individual in reasons, receiving a silver plate, from Dr. and Mrs. David Hawkins in memory of Bernard Ebbing, who was the contest superintendent from 1969 to 1975, a livestock cane from the North American, and a Revere Bowl from Ranch House Designs, with 383 points, from Oklahoma State University, Gentry Squires. High teams and reasons, out of 2,000 possible points, and the second through fifth high team will all receive a plaque from the North American Limousine Foundation. Fifth high team in reasons, with 1,804 points, South Dakota State University. If we could please have a representative come forward. The fourth high team in reasons, with 1,809 points, Kansas State University. In third position, with 1,839 points, Texas A&M University. The second high team in reasons, with 1,847 points, Texas Tech University. And the high team in reasons, receiving a plaque from the North American Limousine Foundation, silver plates to the team members from the American Maine and Jew Association, and a Revere Bowl to the coach from Dr. John and Patsy Edwards, with 1,889 points, Oklahoma State University. If we could please have the coach and the entire team come forward. We'll move on to the high individuals overall. If we could please have Mr. Lee Hall and Dr. Roger Hunsley come forward to help present these awards. Second through 10th high individuals overall receive a plaque from the North American International Livestock Exposition. In 10th position, with a score of 950 points from Texas Tech University, Case Leroux. We had a tie for 8th. In 9th position, with a score of 952 points from Iowa State University, Dylan Scheiss. Winning that tie break in 8th position with a score of 952 points from Oklahoma State University, Ty Drack. In 7th position with a score of 953 points from Texas Tech University, Jake Dawson. The 6th high individual overall with 954 points from Oklahoma State University, Gentry Squires. Fifth high individual overall with 958 points from Oklahoma State University, Eric Schaefer. The 4th high individual overall with 959 points from the University of Nebraska, Brett Forgy. Third high individual overall with 962 points from Oklahoma State University, Caden Church. The second high individual overall, receiving a Revere Bowl from Dr. Leah Cox Ritchie and family in memory of Dr. Harlan Ritchie, and a plaque from the North American with 964 points from Kansas State University, Brody Nemechek. And the high individual overall, receiving a $1,000 scholarship from Drs. Gary and Roberta Manish, the Robert Hall Jr. Challenge Trophy, a Revere Bowl from Larry Cushion Trophies and Engraving in memory of Hilton Briggs, a livestock cane from the North American, and a buckle from the Showtimes magazine with 968 points from Texas A&M University, John Reeves. Move on to the high teams overall. If we could please have Dr. Roger Hunsley, Dr. Bert Moore with the American Simmental Association to come forward and help present these awards. 3rd through 10th high teams all receive a plaque from the American Simmental Association. The 10th high team overall, with a score of 4,504 points, if we could please have a representative from the University of Tennessee. Ninth high team overall with a score of 4,544 points, Chico State University. Eighth high team, 4,648 points, Western Illinois University. If we could have a representative from Western Illinois, please. Seventh high team overall with 4,652 points, Kansas State University. The sixth high team overall with 4,655 points, the University of Nebraska. The fifth high team overall with 4,669 points, South Dakota State University. The fourth high team overall with 4,674 points, Iowa State University. Third high team overall with 4,714 points, Texas Tech University. The reserve national champion team receiving a trophy from Dr. Tom and Susie Turner, a $1,000 award to the coach from Dr. Roger Hunsley and Dr. Gary Manish. With 4,719 points, congratulations to the team from Texas A&M University. If we could please have the entire team and the coach come forward to receive awards and take a photo. Team members John Reeves, Michaela Grady, Keaton Woods, Abby Johnson, and Sage Ward, coached by Caleb Boardman. And the national champion team receiving the silver apron, the bronze bull, a rotating trophy from the North American, a trophy from Gardner Angus Ranch, a $3,500 award from Robert Hall Jr., a plaque from the National Block and Bridle Club, plaques to the team members from the North American International, $1,000 from Robert Hall for the Robert Hall Jr. for the High Team Coaches Award, a desk set to the coach from Pride of the Farm, and livestock canes to the coach for the North American International. With 4,775 points, congratulations to the team from Oklahoma State University. Team members are Caden Church, Eric Schaefer, Gentry Squires, Ty Drack, and Pace Middlestead, and they're coached by Dr. Parker Henley.
Congratulations to Oklahoma State, and congratulations to all 23 institutions and all of you as participants. You'll look back on this day and this year as the greatest moments of your life, and I encourage you all to take full advantage of that. A couple of housekeeping things for those of you that got awards. Most all the boxes and packing material, if you'd like that to help get you home with those awards, it's all under the table. Come up and help yourself there. Most of all, everyone have a safe travel home, and thank you for joining us.
The first North American Livestock Exposition was held in November 1974 in Louisville at the Kentucky Exposition Center. It began as a beef show for 5 breeds with Harold Workman as general manager, a post he would hold for nearly 4 decades. The National 4-H Livestock Judging Contest, held at the legendary International Livestock Exposition in Chicago since the early 1900s, found a new home at the NAILE. From the start, the North American was steeped in tradition, from the now ubiquitous green shavings to a logo that communicated confidence that what began as a beef show would continue to grow and expand to a global reach. The North American seemed destined to inherit the legacies of Chicago, and before long, it was renamed the North American International Livestock Exposition. And the show did grow, with the sheep division coming along in 1975, and dairy, swine, and quarter horse shows following soon after. The National Collegiate Livestock Judging Contest moved to Louisville in 1976, and the North American's early success with all these events right out of the gate led to the honor of being chosen as the new home of the prestigious Saddle and Sirloin Club Portrait Gallery. More than 300 painted portraits of the livestock industry's most revered leaders moved from Chicago to the Kentucky Expo Center in '77. Each year since, during the North American, another honoree is added to this Hall of Fame. The North American Championship Rodeo was launched in 1979 as the finals for the Great Lakes Circuit. Today, the Expo is the longest-serving host venue for the Pro Rodeo Cowboys Association. In the 1980s, draft horse and dairy goat shows were added, and in the 90s, llamas and alpacas found their place in the spotlight. Boar goats and mules and donkeys joined in the fun in the 2000s, bringing the North American to a total of 10 divisions. The continued growth has been possible because the Kentucky Exposition Center has expanded as a world-class facility. The North American's educational reach has extended beyond youth livestock showing and judging contests to coveted internships, school tours, and a children's barnyard. And the commercial exhibits have grown into the ever-popular country store. As we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the North American International Livestock Exposition, we honor the visionary leaders, dedicated staff and volunteers, and exhibitors who raised the best of the best to bring them to the world's largest all-breed, purebred livestock show. Hold on to your hats. The best is yet to come.